record button.
Oh, okay. How about now, Leon?
Recording in progress.
This meeting is being recorded.
I'm in now, thanks.
You're welcome. Okay, so I'd like to call to order the November 16th meeting of the Middlesex County Municipal Joint Insurance Fund. Notice of this meeting was given by sending sufficient notice herewith to the Home News Tribune, the Asbury Park Press, and the Jersey Journal, by filing advance written notice of this meeting with the clerk and/or administrator of each member, and posting a copy of the meeting notice on the public bulletin board of all members. I direct the secretary to enter into the minutes of this meeting the advance written notice of this meeting and this statement. Can I get a roll call, please?
Yes. Michael Sika. James Brady.
Here.
Mike Capabianco. Scott Olson. Jeanette Larison.
Here.
Paul Clark.
Here.
Harry Delgado.
Here.
Michael Julis.
Here.
Joe Zenga.
Here.
Mayor Heck. William Kurtz. Glenn Kurtz.
Here.
Leon Sokol.
Here.
Scott Recant. Joe Monzo.
Here.
Donna Setzer. Jim Gauthier.
Here.
Louis Gauthier.
Here.
Sean Kelly.
Here.
Robin Rassiopi.
Here.
Patty Fahey.
Here.
Sean Walsh.
He's here.
Lauren Holman.
Here.
Anyone I haven't mentioned, please speak up.
You have Pat Lindsay, also from HFA, and Vincent, also from HFA, and Susan Bridge for Dominic.
Glenn, I think Bill Northgrave is trying to call in, but I don't think he's on yet, just so you know.
I'm looking.
I don't think he's having any luck, but he's trying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. We don't have anybody to move up, right? So it'll just be the five executive commissioners. Okay. So in the packet, there was minutes from August 30th. Do I have a motion and a second to approve those?
I'll move it.
Second, Joe.
Paul Clark.
Yes.
Mike Sika, did he come in?
No.
Okay. Joe Zenga.
Yes.
Harry Delgado.
Yes.
Michael Julis.
Yes.
Jeanette Larison.
Yes. Okay, next we have the administrator's report.
Yes. You have a copy of the loss runs which were sent out. Get my copy. Showing claims of from 217 to 221 of 34,339,216 against a budget of 27,201,564, and an excess premium budget of 22,018,485. Finance report, we have 1,274,413.71 in Amboy, $5,295 in freehold savings, and $25,022 in United Roosevelt savings.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you. Managed care?
Donna texted me prior to the meeting, Chair. She was not able to get in to make the meeting She submitted her report. For the month of October, 180 bills processed. Total charges of $616,419. Reduced to payments of $245,879 for a savings of 60% and network penetration of 93%.
Okay, great. Safety and loss control.
Yes, also in the packets for the month of October are the safety and loss control canned reports we submit with respects to all claims reported for the month. Since the last board meeting, all new claims reported on the system, claims we have since closed off, as well as third-party recoveries. Recoveries to date of $3,259,244 on the Park Care system, and on the general claim system of $8,383,315. Also, I have Mr. Gote here to give an update with respects to his work with training and the right to know surveys.
Good afternoon, everyone. All JIF functions which were assigned have been completed and were done so in a timely manner. I would just like to take a second to go over something that PIOSH seems to be, the New Jersey PIOSH seems to be emphasizing, and it's timely. As we get back into a regular routine, especially with respiratory protection and the required annual fit testing, one of the things that we have been finding is that a lot of employees are coming with KN95 respirators to be fitted, and they're being used. Obviously, a lot of people bought up a lot of these things during the COVID problems, but you need to understand that the KN95 is not an approved NIOSH respirator. It's not something that you can use to protect an employee from any potentially hazardous substances. So they're good to the level that they can provide some kind of a cough or for basically anything that is non-occupational, it can be used for. But if you require employees to use some sort of respiratory protection as a result of the regular duties, KN95s are not approved for that function, cannot be used, and as such cannot be fitted annually. So it's just something that you need to keep in mind. KN95 is not NIOSH approved. Does anyone have any questions? If you have any problems trying to identify whether a respirator is NIOSH approved or not, contact us and we'll be happy to help you through with it. That is all.
Thank you.
Chair, if I could just identify number 201-320-0779.
That's Bill Northgrave, General Counsel for the Middlesex County Utilities Authority.
Thank you.
Okay. Finance report. Mr.
Good
Melinka.
afternoon, everybody. I just want to highlight a couple things on the finance report, namely on the assessments receivable document. So for 2022's regular assessment, we received all of our money from all the existing members. With respect to the $2,097,000 that we supplementally assessed in December of last year for 2021, those items, those balances that are highlighted in red, in yellow, are still unpaid. I think a couple of them have made a commitment to pay it, but I can't take a commitment and put it in the bank. So the ones that are still in yellow are unpaid. So still more than half, given the fact that some of the unpaid ones are sizable, namely the MCUA and the Board of Ed in East Windsor. And then if you scroll down to the bottom, last month, the deficit assessments that we did for the 20-some, I forget the number now, it's like 29 million. We've received 4 payments so far. Milltown paid 25% of their assessment. South River paid 10, Carteret paid 10, and South Amboy Redevelopment paid the entire 100% for the 2,600. As we sit here in the month of November, we have, I think, 4 payrolls left, so we're well within the budgetary, the amended budget that we did for salaries. And, given the fact that we only have 1 more month of payments left, we'll be inside of our budget for the year. I know there's some other things that Glenn wants to speak about with respect to the audit and some other pieces. I don't know, is that part of my report, Glenn, or are they listed separately on the agenda?
They're separate on the agenda, Joe. I
Okay.
don't know if you want to.
No, well, you'll announce how we're going to speak to them, and I'll speak to whatever I want to speak to. And but that's the report as it stands now.
Okay, thank you. That moves us to old business. Looks like we have a few things to discuss.
Yeah, excess, we do have a proposal on the excess insurance. Glenn will fill you out on that, and we're waiting for another. So we do have a definite excess commitment for January 1st.
Yes, Chair, as you're aware, we have been seeking alternative markets with respects to excess insurance. We have went out to bid. We have talked to other non-Mel-affiliated JIFs with respects to possible joint purchase agreement with a non-Mel JIF. I put together a synopsis of coverage, which is also will be discussed later in the proposed introduction of the budget. We found currently submitted a proposal lowering the SIR down to $500,000 on the liability coverage for the GL, POL, EPL, and sexual abuse, and they're holding a $1 million on the AA, AL, and PPL coverage. That was provided a proposal by Hudson Insurance. I'm waiting on 2 other quotations that I expect to be more competitive, as well as we have seeked an additional $5.5 million layer up top of that, and we are still pursuing additional proposals with respects to SS on top of that.
Okay, so I have a question regarding the additional proposals. When are they anticipated to be received?
I have given him a hard date of prior to the Thanksgiving break. So he has until next Wednesday to get me alternatives in that regard. So
And then what will happen from there? Because as you know, I mean, I have concerns with what has been provided so far as the costs, it's becoming cost prohibitive. So, when you receive it, if by the next Wednesday, then what will be the process from there? How soon will we know? Are we going to schedule another meeting prior to the end of this month?
If necessary, yes. In my discussion with the broker who was handling it on our behalf, he was tied up with another meeting and said he'd be late calling in, and I thought this might have taken a little longer, but with respects to his alternative proposals, he has secured the liability, he has a property coverage and excess workers' comp. The excess workers' comp proposal is subject to a review of our claims administrations and safety and loss control services that I don't foresee a problem on. We have been approved by other carriers as well as the Mel's excess carriers when we were with the Mel.
Through the chair, I don't know that it's worth pursuing any more of this conversation without our broker present. And the numbers we have are the numbers we have, respectfully, Glenn. There is no such thing as a Thanksgiving break, at least in New Brunswick. We're open on Wednesday, we're open on
Wow.
Friday. There is Thursday off. And given the time frame, I think our chair makes a good point that we should intend to have another meeting and hold our broker to that Wednesday deadline in anticipation of choices.
Okay.
No problem.
Thank you, Michael. Okay, I'm sorry, Glenn, go ahead.
No, and not at all, Chair. With respects to the property proposal received, it's from Cincinnati Insurance Company. They have a proposal in at a rate of 14 cents per $100 of property values. They're reviewing currently the property values. They indicated there may be adjustments to some of the values of the properties based on square footage and construction types. But the proposal is based on these are worst case scenario proposals that I'm received so far. So hopefully not hopefully, but by next week, we will have an alternative or the hard numbers for you to review.
Okay, anybody else have any questions or comments? Okay, what else do we have?
Where's my thing? Update on the audit. I have Lauren Holman here from HFA with respects to the 2021 audit that is in process. We have been working with Lauren and DOBI's representative with respects to getting the audit complete. Joe has prepared an unaudited financial statement, which he can talk about. But as you are aware, we have been also working with Samuel Klein with respects to cooperating and turning over the data to Lauren's office with respects to her getting a certain comfort level with the prior audit. Bear in mind, the JIF audit is a little different than municipal audits. The back schedules to the audit is the detail of all the prior years that must be reviewed, and she must audit in order to come up with the cumulative front page. But Mike from Samuel Klein did provide them with a down certain information that she is currently reviewing and working with Joe and Sean from the state to get a certain comfort level to Mike's numbers. I have Lauren here to give you a brief update with respects to where we are in that regard.
Hi, Glenn. Hi, everyone. Thanks. Thanks for having me tonight. Yeah, I just wanted to touch base with everybody just because I know, obviously, time is of the essence in getting this audit completed. So just to give you a little bit of background, obviously, as everybody knows, the first time going through an audit for any organization does take a little bit of time because we have to document and understand and learn the internal controls and really get an understanding of how your JIF works. So that's taken us a little bit of time. Obviously, our prior auditor communications have not gone as smoothly as we would have hoped or have liked. He did send some communication Friday. We went through it. We are working with Glenn, Joe, and Sean in digesting it and applying it through the schedules that we've created. We are waiting on Glenn, Joe, and Sean. They are working on some back supplemental schedules that we need. And unfortunately, we can't prepare them because we need to make sure that we maintain our independence. So they're working on it. They'll provide it to us so that way we can truly audit it. So we are waiting on that. And in all honesty, we really do need to be comfortable with the prior year's numbers because all of those, JIF is a little different in that all of those prior year numbers get closed basically into your current year equity. So we're just really trying to make sure that we understand and that we agree with it and that we can move forward. So we're still waiting on a couple pieces of information to get tied out. And then in all honesty, once we get that, we'll be able to give you a timeline on when we expect the audit to be completed.
Do you have any idea of what that process is going to take? Any past experience dealing with this that tells you how long it would be before you get the information you need or the green light?
So it's kind of, we're running in tandem, just to let you know. So we're not sitting here waiting to audit the current year numbers until we get some of the back schedules. So we've been currently auditing 2021's numbers. We really need the back schedules to be able to apply auditing procedures on them to then marry the two together and present you an audit. So it would probably take, and I don't want to speak out of turn or set, and it's funny because Glenn tried to push me for a date too, and I was like, I just don't want to set an expectation and then come back to you a month later and say, we didn't meet that expectation. It probably is about 3 weeks after we get those schedules in order for us to then spend a week really getting the rest of our audit procedures completed, and then a week for manager and first partner review, and then about 3 to 4 days for quality control review. So we're probably about three weeks lag time from when we get the last schedule from the JIF.
Excuse me. I will make one comment on the financials. You know, in the packet today was some, you know, year-end balance sheet information for you to look at comparative to the restated audit from 2020. You'll notice that, you know, the $2,097,000. Can you have a tissue? The tissues are in the other room. You know where they're at. Sorry, I'm watching my granddaughter today.
Good for you.
The $2,097,000 that we billed the end of last year has been booked. We have detail on that. We have some, you know, for the first time, we have some detail on a lot of the receivables that are due to us because we wrote off some of the ones from the restated audit. One number to take a look at is the IBNR number has dropped about $3.5 million from the end of the prior year based on the current actual report that we received about 3 weeks ago. We've requested the auditors write off some of the miscellaneous liabilities that have been sitting out there that have been there for a significant period of time. Some of them even longer than my tenure here. I didn't think they were material with respect to the balance sheet itself. So just to present a cleaner balance sheet to know what our actual assets are, what our actual liabilities are. I think this balance sheet gives a better picture of that without mucking up some of the waters. And I know to speak to the issues that Lauren's waiting for, you know, Glenn and I have given Sean some stuff, and you know, Sean's been very helpful in putting together some of these supplementary schedules that they're asking for. I know Lauren made a comment that they can't do them because they need to audit them. That's a very true statement. In the past, however, I guess maybe Samuel Klein didn't have that same mindset, same policy. So they had been the ones who did all the supplementary schedules, and the difficulty with getting the pro forma schedules had been getting that stuff from Samuel Klein because of their contention that it was proprietary, et cetera. I think some of that's been laid to rest by a meeting that they had with Scott last week. So, you know, the audit numbers that you're going to see here on this balance sheet represent, you know, it's pretty much what the financials are going to look like. It's just a matter of filling in all the backup, you know, paperwork to get it to the point where the Holden Frenier can do their internal, you know, partner reviews. So I'm confident they're going to, you know, meet whatever moving deadline we keep talking about. But I think the audit's going very well, and there's been cooperation on all sides, at least between Sean and myself and Lauren's office and Glenn's office. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you. Anyone else have questions for Lauren, Joe?
I do.
Okay.
Lauren, thank you for being with us today, and thank you for so clearly explaining the rest of the process. And Joe, thanks for giving the additional information. You guys talked about a lot of numbers. I tried to write them down, but what the numbers are sticking in my head is there's about 6 working full weeks left in the calendar year. And I understand Lauren said that she would need no less than 3 of those. And I think it's important that we are within 6 weeks. We should. Is there any reason we couldn't put a target to have this audit at least in hand for evaluation by the commissioners in 2022? So that's the thought that's looming around in my mind. And I throw it to the staff and say, of the supplementary schedules that you have been tasked to create, what is your timeline?
I have, Mike, I've been working with both Sean and Joe since we received the update from Michael last week. I expect to have a good understanding of the numbers, and Sean, and before I submit them, Sean will review them and submit them to Lauren by Friday. I think that's a fair statement, and then she should be able to run with the numbers from then. But she should have a good understanding of our schedules by Friday.
That Friday, November 18th?
This Friday, correct.
Okay, and I see Sean is shaking his head. Is in agreement, Sean? Are you agreeing to the 18th too?
He is, he's not.
I'm just here observing, gentlemen.
Oh, okay. All right. So I don't know what that means. I'm sorry.
Well, since it's an open just to put everybody on the same page.
Please.
Sean is here representing DOBI, and he is tasked with observing the meetings if we want to, and reporting back to Mr. Wolf at DOBI. But he and I have had numerous conversations. He was shaking his head in agreement that the 2 of us had set a deadline for Friday to get this wrapped up. So,
and just to continue to educate me, what is Sean's role in terms? Does it go back to you and then you hand them over to Lauren, or what? Does Sean who gives them over to Lauren completed?
Sean will give them to Lauren completed after.
If I may, so generally, I'm just here to observe. They're your financial. I've been engaged by Dobie, so I will give my comments to Glenn, and Glenn will provide them to HFA.
Thank you. Okay, so Glenn, you could hand them over only after you have the comments from Dobie.
Yeah.
Okay. So is it reasonable to think that we could have this completed audit in this calendar year in the commissioner's hands?
I did.
Yeah.
I believe so, and if Lauren wants to stick to her 3-week time frame after she gets what she needs, it can be done within the 6 weeks.
Yeah, I was just going to disclaim that next week really doesn't count as a week. So for us, because
in New Brunswick it does.
I know. I apologize for that, but we are out Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of next week. So if I get it on Friday, don't count next week. And then 3 weeks from that, I don't see why we couldn't have it to you before the holidays.
Great. Thank you, Chair.
Let me caveat that pending any other issues that come up, but I'll inform you if any of those instances arise.
Lauren, I think you've seen that we are very hands-on in this process and want to be as supportive as possible. So, if you have a problem and we can't get you a quick response, let us know and we will make sure, because we're all in this together.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments regarding the pending audit? Okay, Glenn, what else you have for us?
Yes, Chair, can I identify 201-320-00779?
Bill Northgrave, General Counsel to the MCUA. I got dropped off and just rejoined. Thank you.
Sorry about that. Chair, also under old business, I believe, we have a formal resolution, prepared by Mr. Sokol's office with respects to ratifying the action, approving the interest, on the deficit that was, the action that was taken at the last board meeting. This is merely a resolution formally, ratifying the action taken.
Okay. Do we have a motion and a second to adopt this resolution?
I'll move it.
I'm sorry, who was that who moved it?
That was Harry. We have a second?
Second, Michael Droulis.
Walt Clark,
No, as stated before.
did Mike Seekich come in?
No, I have not seen.
Okay. Joe Zanga,
Yes.
Harry Delgado,
Yes.
Michael Julis,
Yes.
Jeanette Larison.
Yes. Okay. Is there any other old business? Hearing none, moving on to new business.
Yes, Chair, circulated in the packets, as you're aware, we must at least introduce or have the introduction of the 2023 budget, which a copy was circulated to everybody. The numbers presented at this meeting reflect the worst case scenario in the premiums account. As you can see, the cost of the excess insurance for 2023 represents a significant increase, which we are continuing to hammer and drill down and expect to be able to do so moving forward. We pretty much hold the line on the other side of the expenses. If anybody has any questions on the item, I'd be more than happy to address them. I know you raised a concern with respects to the budget for the legal fees and moving forward with respects to potential litigation over the supplemental assessments. I did have a conversation with Joe and discussed it with him. Those costs would be associated with the prior years in which the litigation was necessary to.
What happens when we haven't collected enough money from those supplements to, how is that going to work out with cash flow? And so I get that we're going to charge them to those, I guess, to be paid out of the supplemental assessments, but what happens if we're not collecting them and there's no money there? What happens to our cash flow?
The fund cash flow, and Joe is working on it, and we'll put a cash flow projection together for 2023 now that he has these numbers to work off of, and he will again put in a number of what is expected and what is not expected, which will be circulated to the board at the first meeting in December. So based on what we expect as collectible will be included in the cash flow projections. The actuary is working on or has provided numbers for the 2023 year as far as cash flow for projected claims. And Joe will use that number to develop a cash flow projection through 2023. So
to answer part of your question, Chair, this is not a JIF that has millions of dollars in reserves.
Right.
Unlike some comments that we've had in past meetings from Mr. Grubb, who has said in his world that this JIF is bankrupt because it only has a month or two's worth of cash reserves. if that's the case, then half the municipalities in New Jersey are bankrupt because they don't have cash reserves at certain points, because you have your obligations at 4 times during the year for county bills and 12 months during the year for school bills, regardless of your collections. So this is a JIF that, and maybe there are others in the same situation that operate, on a quarter-to-quarter basis. We pass a budget that, just like you pass a municipal budget, that has expected revenues, which are our assessments. So in any given year, if we collect all the assessments and we have an expense side of the budget, the majority of which is claims, which don't get paid out in the fund year in which they are adopted. We can see that, right? We adopt a claims budget with what, $6 million of expected claims, and we don't come anywhere near that in the first year. So we always have excess, cash in terms of collecting all the assessments, but not paying out all the budgeted expenses in that given year. So the expectation of getting the remainder of the $2,097,000 and then, a significant portion of the $29 million, as we collect those, then our situation gets significantly improved, and we get to the point, if we start to collect a significant amount of that, where we're a cash rich JIF, as opposed to just being a JIF that can manage its expenses on a month-to-month, quarterly basis based on the adopted budgets. If we don't get any of that money, maybe at some point when the claims start hitting greater than what we budgeted, then there might be a problem. But I'm not of the belief that the JIF is bankrupt just because we only have a month or two's worth of cash reserves and don't have a full year.
Well, my concern is that the anticipation of litigation, we already have seen that we can't get some of our current members to pay, let alone former members. And so my concern is that, okay, we have a month or two of cash that at some point, if we don't start collecting money and we're going to be spending more money, that it has to be allocated somewhere. And just to say that, well, that we're going to charge that off to the special assessment money, because that's now earmarked because they were fighting about money from.
No, we're not going to charge it off to the special assessment money. I don't know if Glenn said that. If he did, I think that's a misstatement. We're going to charge it off to prior years, because the prior years in this JIF, as we've seen.
That's basically what that means, though, Joe, doesn't it? I mean, so it's prior years means the money that we're collecting from those special assessments that's where we're going to use that money for. Part of that money is going to be used to pay my concern is that this legal line is the same amount of money. I get, we're talking in the world of our books that, money is the money, but we're not going to raise enough money in this budget in the event that we don't have enough money collected, that it's going to cause a problem with our cash flow. So I guess that's what I'm really concerned about, is that we're not raising enough money.
My suggestion would be that the board adopt the 23 budget with a significantly higher amount for a legal expense and pay for it out of the 23 budget. And to do that, based on all the other expected expenses, will increase the 23 assessments to the existing members proportionally. So if the board has a greater comfort level with the budget for the legal being higher based on what the expected expenses are from Mr. Sokol's office, then my recommendation would be then to make that number higher.
Right, which is exactly why I'm bringing it up.
Okay, so
I personally have a concern. I don't know how everyone else feels. I know the thought process behind how we would pay legal fees. My concern is that we may not collect enough money to pay in that manner, which would then further deplete our cash flow based on our current budget projections. And, we'll be worse off than, if we just said, hey, maybe we should put a budget for 200,000, maybe it's more realistic. I don't know. I'm just raising that concern because I don't, we're not collecting any money in those supplementals to be able to charge off the prior year, you know, things. So that's where my concern comes from.
I hope that we're not spending as much in legal fees to collect $29 million.
Well, I agree, but
but you know, so far we've collected wherever my report showed, and we have
about 400 and some odd thousand.
Right, and we have commitments. I know from at least North Brunswick, New Brunswick, at budget transfer time to pay 10%. So, and we'll have, you know, if you wanted to look at
I got
it,
a
we'll
call
have-
this morning, the Board of Ed cut last night, so.
Okay, so.
Okay.
I mean, so I mean, I don't know what Mr. Stokel's charges are going to be. I'm hoping that they're not going to approach the numbers that we've talked about in terms of what the assessments are. But you know, from as a CFO and me, and as a CFO and you, Jeanette, and Joe Zhang is on the line. If the comfort level is to increase this year's legal appropriation, so be it. Remember, when you're doing that, you're placing the burden of the collection and the cost of that collection on the current members only, and not on the prior members, because only the current members have a
I got you.
Okay.
Okay. No, I just wanted to raise that concern. That's all. Whatever gets decided, but and the same would go for the actuary. So my concern with the actuary line item is that, you know, have we gotten any proposals of what it's going to cost to go through these motions year after year? Now, I don't anticipate them to be what they were this year, but is that a realistic number?
Chair, I believe it is. The adjustment last year was due to, at the time, she was complying with, or working with the state DOBI and their actuary, which incurred a lot of additional expense for her to negotiate or talk to the state's actuary. So I believe it's a solid number. I will follow up with her, and if we need to do an adjustment, I'll do an adjustment for that as well with respects.
So my question also would be, so the role of the actuary each and every year, is that now increased or changed because of our supplemental assessments, or they're just doing the same work they would normally do?
They're doing the same work they would normally do in producing the IBNR case reserves. However, when DOBI and the state were in back in January and February, she then had to produce additional reports for them, as well as we did task her with doing the projections on the cash flow analysis, which was an additional job. It's all set up now. I don't believe updating that number requires anything other than just downloading the formulas. Are all in there. But I will reach out to her and get a formal number before we adopt the budget and make sure it's adjusted if need be.
Okay.
Here, if I can,
yeah, please.
I take the blame for this because I was trying to keep the cost to the members as low as possible. Unlike, I did some research on the MEL for the results for the 5 years. I took in $179 million and paid out $24 million in claims. Wish we could be more like them.
Well, yeah, that would be nice, but you know, we have to be a little bit more real. We have to think about, you know, at this point, like I said, because of the cash flow issues, that, you know, we have to be really careful. Like, it's not like what the MEL does. If they underestimate something, that's fine. They've got plenty of funds to support. They can take the hit, but we can't. So that's why I'm asking all these questions, because I want us to have a real budget, not to just make it manageable. I want to make sure that the budget that we is actually going to support our expenses. So if it requires that we need to increase it, then we increase it, but keep it real, because we just simply don't have the cash flow to be playing around with that. And someday maybe we will again, and maybe we'll exceed the MEL's you know, financial profile. But for right now, unfortunately, we're at the exact opposite end of the spectrum. So we just have to be a little bit more cautious.
Chair, if I could chime in, Paul Clark,
Sure.
I was gonna wait till we get to the vote, but I plan to abstain from the budget vote. As most of you know, if you've been paying any attention, we've been looking to leave the JIF at the end of the year.
No.
Most of you know, we do have another year left, so we're gonna negotiate that or work on that through our council. But I did want to make everybody aware of it since we're talking about the budget. I anticipated we'd get this a week ago. We didn't. I don't know about anybody else, so we would have had a little more time to look at it. That's one of the reasons I want to abstain. But just a lot of the things that have gone on, especially in the last month, have kind of pushed this to the forefront for us. So I just want to go on the record and say it now.
Well, thank you, Paul. And I appreciate what you're saying. And all I would like to say for everyone else, including you, is that this would be an introduction only. So you always have the ability, once we get to adoption, to vote it down. I certainly am looking for additional information, and that's why we're having this discussion now. But because we're so close to the end of the year, we have to at least get something introduced, and then, then we can make that further decision of whether to approve it or not at the next, the next meeting. But thank you for that. And just as an aside, if the MCUA is planning on leaving, or at least looking to negotiate, leaving, has anything formal been submitted regarding that? I mean, we understand how unhappy the MCUA is, but has anything formally been done?
Council's going to handle it, so I
This
can answer it.
Yeah, this is Bill Northgrave. We will be submitting a formal notice to the
Okay.
MCM JIF.
All right. No, I'm in the meeting.
This is Joe. I have two questions.
I'll talk to you back. I'll
Glenn,
call you
do we
back.
have an
Bye.
estimate? Is there an estimate per entity based on the 23 proposed budget? Do we know what each municipality is going to owe and the MCUA
That
is
was
going
one of my questions too, Joe. Yeah, we need to have a list of where those revenue projections.
Now that we have, and I'll have to adjust for the discussion today, but I'll be putting together an itemized, not itemized, but a per member breakdown to make up the budget, and we'll circulate that, Joe.
Yeah, and how long will that take for you to put that together? I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, who?
Go ahead, Joe. I interrupted you.
No, I said we need that sooner than later. My other question was, I know Sean's on the line from Dobie. Is the New Jersey State exam 100,000? Is that for Dobie? That's in the budget?
That is Dobie's budget item. Sean is an independent contractor of Dobie, so that's what we were instructed to put in the budget last year. They are still involved, and currently we are having them, or working with them, to review the deficit and supplemental schedules, so Dobie has a comfort level and can sign off, and well, they have signed off on it, but
All right, because that could be one place. So I mean, the heavy lifting was last year. Really, going forward, it shouldn't be as bad, I would think. So Jeanette's right with
anticipates
legal,
after
so maybe
their
we can
final
take a couple
review.
bucks from there. All right, I can't. Go ahead.
No, absolutely. I don't anticipate that's another large number. It's just a rollover from last year, Joe. So we should be
All
able
right,
to cut
once
that.
we maybe think about it, is maybe pulling a couple dollars from there and putting it into legal then, and not having to change the total assessment.
Correct.
Just my 2 cents.
Okay.
Okay,
Sorry, that was muted. So Joe, is your suggestion to move some of that over into the legal budget?
Yeah, I'm thinking so, because I mean, Dobie's heavy lifting was already done, I believe. So going forward, it shouldn't be as bad. I just looked at what was spent year to date, and I think we're pretty well. I think it was 50,000 or something. I'm trying to go back to it. So I think we could probably move something, maybe 25,000 or something down. I mean, Sean from Dobie maybe should give a little more input, whether he believes 100,000 is definitely warranted, or we can go down a little bit and then move it to legal, and then we're still in the same proposed budget.
Yeah, I'll reach out to Dave Wolf, who is the point person on that, and get an estimate from him. So,
And
All right,
and
sounds
Glenn, if and when the MCOA does leave and I'm not a member for 23, is the only real adjustment to the proposed budget going to be on the claim side of the equation?
I'll have to take a look, Joe, once I get because they were included in says cost, the property.
Then you keep freezing up.
I'm freezing? Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
Joe, I'll have to take a look, because they are included in they are carved out on the property side on the premiums, but it would affect that as well. So I'll have to take a look at how it will affect the claims and premium costs.
Okay, so Glenn, if you could get to us, the listing of each town's portion. The bigger general question was what were included in the revenue projections, specifically regarding the MCUA. And then I also would like a breakdown of the salary and benefits.
Okay.
So I think if that could be sent to all of us as well. And then that answers, all of my questions, but the sooner we get this, the better. So please don't try to make it a priority.
Absolutely.
There should be a couple bucks savings in it.
I'll circulate a chair.
Thank you. And that's all I have. I'll open up to anybody else that may want to chime in at this point that hasn't already.
I have a couple questions regarding the budget. Michael Drillis.
Sure.
Just being Joe listed the CFOs in the room, I am not. So maybe we can just get a little bit of education here on JIF budgeting and rules, and to either Jeanette or to Leon, what are statutorily the requirements in terms of budget introduction and budget adoption for a JIF? I know it is for municipality, but I know there's differences.
So
I'll leave it to you, Leon, or even Joe, whoever wants to.
Well, statutorily, you're obligated to adopt a budget and send it to both the Department of Banking and Insurance and Local Government Services at DCA. I candidly have not, since I've only been general counsel for part of this year, have not been involved with the budget adoption process as counsel in the past. Joe, do you have anything to add to that? Because it's, other than putting a budget together, adopting it, the introduced budget goes to all the municipalities who are members for them to comment on. And then once you have all the comments from whoever wants to submit comments, you then go to final approval.
So is there a public meeting requirement to collect those comments?
Yes.
Yes, we will have a public hearing. Joe is back, but yes, there will be a public hearing on a budget, Mike.
Yeah.
And how long after introduction is the minimum period of time in which there can be a public hearing?
I believe it's 14 days. I can
Okay.
confirm.
So 14 days from today could be the public hearing on this introduced budget.
Correct.
Right, it can't be any sooner. It's like the DCA budget where it can't be within 28 days. So I'll find the statutory references for the commissioners, in the Department of Education regs, and I can send those along. Most of you are familiar with Title 48 for municipalities and counties, but I'll find the similar regs for the DOE, and I'll send them along just so you have something to read.
Thank you, Joe. And then the last piece of that is, based on our current working knowledge, what would be our anticipated next steps in terms of adopting the budget? Is that our next scheduled commissioners meeting? Is that a special meeting? How does that happen?
Traditionally, we traditionally schedule 2 meetings in December, Mike. In case there is the budget doesn't get formally approved at the first one, we'll hold the second one, which is 2 weeks after.
Okay, so it's typical that we have a budget adopted in December for the next year.
Correct.
Okay. Now, I hear a lot of the questions from the commissioners, and they ask them so eloquently, other commissioners, and thank you for those clear answers. I think would be a little bit at a disadvantage, though, if at our next gathering, all we had were just answers to those questions and an updated worksheet in front of us. Being the new guy of the group, and it would be helpful to me to understand each of these line items worksheet by worksheet. And I'm glad to do that on my time with Glenn and Joe. You know, I'd like to see where these projections come from. I'd like to see how they roll year over year. But I don't want to, I don't want to impede a process. So, maybe Jeanette guide me. But I don't know that I'm comfortable just seeing a worksheet like this with money moved at our next meeting.
Okay.
Yeah. I would agree to the fact that, it's normally, once you establish your budget, and Joe could probably speak to this as well, and you're pretty well established with your expenses year over year, you can just, add a few more bucks, leave it the same depending on what you spent, as an aggregate or a average over a rolling couple of years. Normally, that would be perfectly acceptable, where there wouldn't be too many questions and say, okay, this kind of looks like what we've been doing. But because of the predicament we're in, that's why we have to analyze this so much. So I do agree. And some of the areas that and I thank Joe Zanga for bringing up the state examination amount, because I didn't think to ask about that. But a lot of the things, we can go back and look and see what was spent this year. And, some of those things kind of make sense. But to get a breakdown of some of the other things is a necessary evil. Like, as I mentioned, the salary and benefits. And the other number that I would really be interested in what makes up the total operating budget. What other expenses are thrown in there, just to get a better understanding. So if Michael is looking for more details on every line item, then I'd certainly support that as well. But for myself, there was just really a couple that just jumped out at me that I wanted to see more information on.
So would you be comfortable then if I met with the staff offline and it kind of went through it to my own satisfaction and collect the backup, and then that way, I could represent with the staff what I know at the next time we meet as well.
Yeah, that would be fine. Sure.
I would strongly support that, just for the record.
Yes,
absolutely.
Okay. What are you doing the day after Thanksgiving, Glenn? No, people would miss me.
Take a vacation
People would miss me
sometime in January, so I'm good till January.
People would miss me here too much if I didn't show up the Friday after Thanksgiving. So my dad's card's full.
Yeah, make him come to New Brunswick.
Yeah. All right, I'll be in touch. Thank you.
Not a problem.
Hey, Glenn, just while we were talking, I told you I was going to give you the new pension number, just so you want to jot this down. It's part of the benefits number that's part of your budget, but as we're looking for the detail, the sub detail for all this stuff, the new pension number that's due in April is $68,520. This year's number, for everybody's edification, was $63,994. So it's a 7% increase. Albeit $4,600, but 7%, 7%. So
yeah. Anyone else have questions or comments regarding this budget? Okay, so my question would be, although I have stated that this is just this would be the first vote to introduce it, and then we would vote at some point in the future to adopt it and make any amendments. Considering that we're looking to have another meeting prior to the end of this month, and then we'll have 2 meetings in December, would it be more prudent for us to gather the rest of the information, for you to provide us the backup, make the changes to the budget, and then introduce it at that point? So which could theoretically be the meeting at the end of this month.
I think that's recommended.
Yeah.
Motion.
Mike,
Second,
who's second?
Harry.
Harry? Paul Clark?
Harry, it was easier being a policeman, wasn't it?
Yes.
By far.
Joe Zenga?
Yes.
Mike, Harry Delgado?
Yes.
Michael Julis?
Yes.
Jeanette Larison?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. And then, sorry, I'm just looking at this. Okay, so then, do we have any comments from the audience?
Yeah,
I
Charlie
did.
Stradiville, can you hear me?
Sure, Charlie, go ahead.
Right. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Following up on some of my comments at prior meetings, wanted to ask if there has been any litigation filed from current or former members regarding the assessments.
No, there has not.
Thank you. I also wanted to understand, the collection of the assessments. It looks like, there were 52 total, members and former members assessed. One has paid in full. One has paid 25%. 2 have paid 10%. And am I correct to understand that the other 48 have paid none?
Yes, that's correct. As of today, yes.
Okay. And what was the deadline to pay? Was there not a deadline, or has that not passed yet?
December 1st, I think you made, right, Larry?
Yeah,
December 1st.
the deadline was extended at the last meeting to December 1st.
Understood. Okay. And did I hear that New Brunswick has a commitment to do 10% by, is it that date, or?
I believe so, but I'll have to confirm it with him, Charlie. I believe it was then.
Okay. I guess I'm really concerned about the future of the JIF. I see, in the past 2 years, 10 members have left. A couple others have expressed an interest in leaving. One even today on this call saying they want to, terminate their contract before its term ends. And I guess I wanted to ask the status of Jamesburg and Denellen Parking Authority, and if there's any other members other than the MCUA who have, formally notified the JIF they're going to leave or want to explore their options.
I think it was just Dunellen, East Windsor, and Mr. Clark verbally today is the only ones I've heard from, but
No, but Glenn, we have not
Jamesburg,
received
too.
formal notice.
no. So,
On behalf of the MCUA, to be clear, we have been clear for months, if not a year now, that we were going to be leaving as December 31. I grant you have not received a formal letter, but it has been very clear in the correspondence that we have sent. So I don't want there to be any confusion on that point.
Well, thank you. So just to be clear, when we talk about Denellen, we're talking about the Denellen Parking Authority or the Denellen Municipal Government
Parking Authority.
Parking Authority, and they are still in the category of might leave, or they are definitely leaving?
They indicated an intent to shop in their notification.
Okay. And Jamesburg, have they left yet? Are they leaving?
He sent the letter to the same effect, intent to shop.
Got it. And then this is the first I'm learning about East Windsor potentially leaving. What's the status there?
They sent correspondence of their intent to shop, correct?
Yeah, definitely troubling pattern. I'm also interested in the list of folks who have not yet paid the 2021 assessment. I know it was alluded to, and I think it was Mr. Monzo said they're the ones that are in yellow. But I could not see the document he was referring to, so I just wanted to ask if somebody could tell me which members and former members haven't paid the 2021 assessment or still owe some of it.
In 1 second, Charlie, I'll pull it back up. I'll close that document out. So in terms of the 21 special assessment of the 2,097,000, still outstanding in terms of actual receipt of money. East Windsor, Southbound Brook and Southbound Brook Rescue, South Plainfield, Spotswood, the MCUA, the New Brunswick Board of Education, Millstone Borough, and the Spotswood First Aid.
Okay, that sounds like about half.
Well, in terms of dollars, it's about half. The assessment was 2 million for all the entities was 2,097,000. We've collected 990, so we're owed, over $1 million still.
Okay, well, I certainly share the concern of the chair, and seeing as how you're having trouble collecting assessments from current members, seeing a large number of entities leave the fund over the past couple of years, obviously state supervision and difficulty getting the excess coverage. I'm, not only concerned, but getting more concerned by what I'm hearing. So I guess finally, I wanted to ask about Samuel Klein and Company and what their issue is. I reached out to them for a comment and they gave no comment. I understand there's some difficulty getting them to cooperate with the new auditor. And I'm just curious what, the board's assessment is of their, performance over the years. I've heard some commissioners allude to them filing audits quite late. And obviously, there was a big glaring thing that they were missing. And at least my assessment is that's one reason they were replaced. But can anybody tell me, what is their, what is their objection to cooperating or continuing to assist the fund?
Scott, you had a meeting with them last week, correct?
So I spoke to Michael McGuire last week. We disagree as to the sort of proprietary nature of the spreadsheet or the data. He provided information late Monday. He actually called me yesterday to say he wasn't ghosting me and that he spent some time putting this stuff together. So I think Lauren and her team are looking through that to see what still might be needed. I'm available to try and intercede with Michael on behalf of Lauren, on behalf of the JIF, just trying to push this along in case they're not responsive or he's not promptly responsive, I guess would be the way to put it. So that's where it is. They think they've been responsive. I guess time will tell.
Thank you all for the thorough answers. And if I don't speak to you before the holiday, hope everybody has a happy Thanksgiving.
You too.
Thank you, Charlie, too. Any other comments from the audience?
Hi, this is Patty Fay. How are you? I have a question regarding the quote you got from Hudson. Were there any additional subjectivities on their quote? Because I know you mentioned the workers' comp had subjectivities, like updated financials or audits or anything like that. Because typically I see it when I'm shopping other insurances. So I was just wondering if there were.
The only thing that was glaring at me, Patty, was some details on some law enforcement claims that they wanted some more detail on. And
Nothing major that you would think that they would pull the quote.
no, I don't think so.
And is this through the regular broker you typically have used in the past, which was, I think, Lynx or Apex or something?
Apex, correct.
Okay, they're shopping it still.
Yeah.
And then also, do you know if your proposed budget and the quote you received included all the members who gave you and sent the intent to possibly leave? So you'd have to get a revised quote to if they all decided to leave?
This proposal did not include, I believe, Dunellen and Parking Authority and Jamesburg, but I don't, I'd have to take pull it out, but I don't believe it would drastically.
It wouldn't change your numbers that much. Okay. Also, then the Cincinnati you said was going to possibly quote the property, or you have a definite?
They are quoting it. They gave me a rate, but they're reviewing the property values. So.
Okay, because you said $14 a square foot, which to me seems
No.
extremely low. Okay.
14 cents per $100 of value. Yeah.
Per 100 of value. Okay, I thought you said $14 per square foot. I'm like, oh, I'm shopping moving everything. So, okay. Thank you.
Well,
Any other comments? Okay, also enclosed in the packet was the bill list for today.
Thanks,
Do we have a motion and a second to approve it?
Motion, Joe.
I'll second.
Who's second?
Aaron.
Harry?
Yep.
Okay, Paul Clark,
Yes.
Joe Zenga,
Yes.
Harry Delgado,
Yes.
Michael Drulis,
Yes.
Jeanette Larison.
Yes. Okay, next will be, I'll need a motion and a second to enter into closed session. We have a few for claims review, contract negotiations, and potential litigation.
Moved.
Second, Joe.
Paul Clark,
Yes.
Joe Zenga,
Yes.
Harry Delgado,
Yes.
Michael Drulis.
Yes, and question, do we need Miss Holman to stay with us? I'm sure she's other things she could do.
yeah, she's good. I don't think we're going to take any action outside of closed, are we, Leon, other than
Claims.
approve the claims?
No, we're gonna talk about potential litigation.
Okay.
Okay.
Jeanette Larison.
Yes.
Approved.
Okay, so you have to remove Charlie and
This is Bill
Charlie, you wanna
Northgrave.
stick around or you want to go in a breakout room?